All right, so this I want to address everybody that's on the live stream, whether you're on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. Welcome to the EMS Live. We're going to get started here in about 5 or 6 minutes. We still have people coming in from outside that are joining us live in person today. So just hang tight, and we're going to be with you in just a few minutes. Bobby, good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Glad you're here. Get you coffee and bagel.
Hey, how's it going, Ross?
Hey, Bobby.
Bobby, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me get some back here.
Thank you.
This is Ross.
Hi.
obviously a lot of room for extra VIPs for the lunch session. And so if you'd like to upgrade right now, you can do that. Just go see Renee and we can just upgrade you to that ticket for whatever the price differential of what you already paid. I know several of you already paid for the VIP. And then as we go through this morning over the next couple hours, if you decide I want to be here for the next 3 to get the things that we're talking about done before you leave today, you can upgrade pretty much at any point. With a group this size, it's not that big of a deal. So if you want to upgrade to go to VIP, you're welcome to do that. Just go see Renee. We won't have any breaks once we start. We're going to go for about 2 hours. So if in the middle you're like, I want to do the VIP and you want to go out there and do it, you can. Or if you want to wait till we finish and upgrade, you can. It won't be that big of a deal. Any questions about the VIP? It starts at 11:30. We're done here at 11. Starts at 11:30 with lunch, and we're going to go for 2.5 hours after lunch, where you're going to actually walk away with the tool built for you. So that's what VIP is going to get you today. All right, Justin, are we ready to get rocking? All right,
Let's do it.
so are we live on live stream?
Awesome.
All right, well, welcome to EMS Live in Hendersonville, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. For those of you that are joining us on the live stream, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, I'm really glad that you're here. We have a couple hundred people that are on the live stream, and we have a handful of people here live in the room on a rainy day in Nashville, Tennessee. It's going to be beautiful the rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of the week. Today's rainy, but we're glad that you're here. I am the Real Jason Duncan, and this place that we're meeting in today is one of the companies I own. This is our training room at Energy Lighting Services, and so I use this to do live events. We have with us today Ross Flutterjohn, known as Ecom Ross on Instagram. So go check him out, Ecom Ross on Instagram. That's how we met, actually.
That's right.
Instagram is such an amazing social media platform. I have the people who've sat in this chair and have sat in the chairs on my podcasts. Many of them I met just because I followed them on Instagram or vice versa. We ended up creating a relationship, and now we do this where we add a lot of value. So Ross and I started talking back in, I guess it was February. Yeah, it was pretty early this year because, as you know, ChatGPT was like the talk of the town. Everybody was talking about ChatGPT. It was kind of the new thing. I just found out about it in December, and then here we are in February. It's just blowing up. It's going everywhere. And this guy had a bunch of content on Instagram about ChatGPT, among other things. And I said, I want to reach out to this guy and talk to him. So we started talking. And I said, I do this webinar series called the EMS, Entrepreneur Masters Series. And I'd love to have you come on and talk about all things AI. And he said, well, I'd like to do a live version of this in person if I can. So here he is. So he flew in from Vegas yesterday, and he's here today to do this main session. Then we got a VIP session after this. And then there's going to be a super VIP tonight. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, we can certainly make that available to you. But I'm really glad you're here. So I'm going to give Ross just a couple of minutes to give his background, to talk about where he came from, what he's doing, how he got to where he is today, and then the next part of our time together is we're going to talk about AI like in general, because there's so many misconceptions about what AI is, how it works, what is considered AI, etc. And then we're going to go into some more very specific nuts and bolts about how you can set up a lead generation system for your organization using AI. And then during the VIP session, for those that stick around, we'll actually set that up for you. We'll walk you through getting that set up so that when you leave today, you'll have that whole system ready for you to begin using as soon as today. A couple of things, though, at the very end of our presentation today, I've got a couple of announcements I'm going to make about the next Entrepreneur Master Series, because this is the live version of EMS, but I do a monthly webinar, a series of webinars. Every month I do one where it's the same thing, but it's just not a live audience. We just do it online. So if you haven't yet signed up for all the sessions, just go to therealjasonduncan.com/EMS, and you can sign up for any of those. I do those once a month, every month, and we've got some cool stuff coming up for the rest of the year. I'm not going to do one in December, but I will be doing one the rest of the year. All right. So For those of you that are on the live stream, we're going to be taking questions and answer. Or we're going to be taking questions from you. We'll give the answers as we go through today. So if you're on Zoom, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, all you got to do is type it in the chat, and my wonderful apprentice Justin will be monitoring that in all the platforms, and he will alert us that there's a question from online, and we'll be glad to answer your question as we go through this. There will be a dedicated Q&A time at the end of our presentation today. But if you got questions in the meantime, and if you're live in the room, all you do is raise the right hand, and I'll see you, and we'll take your questions live in the room and get down to it. So Ross, how did you get started in business, specifically around AI?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So with AI, like you mentioned, kind of ChatGPT came onto the scene and really kind of took everyone by storm, and it was very clear very early on that it was going to be very overwhelming for most business owners. When I started talking to people about it very lightly, it was more of the conversation of, I'm so overwhelmed. There's, how do I even kind of integrate this into my business? And as a website developer, that's kind of my background in the last few years, trying to see how you could actually integrate it into the systems where it provides the added value rather than it being, such a distraction is where kind of the shift in focus needed to take place. And over the last few months, I've been working with a lot of business owners to try to figure out how those processes can actually enhance your business practices, mainly focusing on lead generation and converting leads into clients and customers and things like that. And seeing kind of how the market is shifting with AI, we're now kind of moving away from the generic ChatGPT stuff to more personalized, integrated solutions that are more customized to each business.
So what is Stammer.ai? What is that?
So Stammer.ai is a company that I created that allows agencies, so I'm a website development agency by trade. We have a lot of business clients, and a lot of our business clients don't necessarily know how to, embed a chatbot on their website or how to do technology in general. And so I realized kind of as an agency owner, one of the abilities to scale an agency is to provide a fully scalable offer. So it's not reliant on your time. It could be more reliant on software. And so Stammer is a software that allows agencies to create custom AI solutions for their business clients. So it offers a way for both parties to kind of take advantage of this AI and the agency to actually make money from it by providing a solution to their business.
When you say agency, you're talking marketing? What
it could be like an advertising, website development, marketing, SEO, SMMA, kind of anything in that realm.
So they're white labeling your product for their clients.
Yeah.
And they're making money on the spread. So they'll charge the clients a fee, they pay you a fee, and then they make the difference on the spread.
Exactly. So the way that we kind of structure it is the term SaaS, software as a service. The second S, how much you're focusing on that service part of setting up the software, similarly to how you're setting up ads or a website for a business client. That same kind of process happens with AI or any sort of tech stack that needs to be added to a business. And when you're doing it in a way that actually leverages the technology in a right way and not to be overwhelming to the business owner, that's the key. Is it can't do new things. We're just trying to enhance, not replace.
Yeah, that's a good point. So as we go through this today, one of the things that Ross and I have talked about is that AI should enhance, not replace. It should make things better. It's not about replacement. Now, there are certain use cases where there will be a total replacement, but that's not today. Our point is not to replace. We're not trying to replace things. We're going to enhance what's already happening. So you want leads to come into your business. You want more leads. You want more people saying, hey, raising their hand saying, I want to do business with you. What AI can do is take what systems are already there, enhance that, and like pour fuel on the fire. So this is what we're getting into. So let's talk a little about AI in general. AI stands for artificial intelligence. There's a lot of misconceptions about what AI is, how it functions. Most people, I think that ChatGPT is AI. Like AI and ChatGPT are equal. That now ChatGPT is an AI, but it isn't AI. So, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, everything is machine learning. Everything is AI. These are all kind of like terms that everyone's using interchangeably nowadays. But the key factor with ChatGPT and LLMs, large language models, is they're predictive text models. So what they're doing, they're not necessarily smart or this term AGI, artificial general intelligence, that is supposed to be like the Terminator scenario. We're not even close to being there yet. So where we're at currently is predictive text modeling. So what that essentially means is the AI is trying to, with the highest degree of percentage, predict what word comes next after the previous word. So if you're asking it a question, it's going to generate all this text, and it's just trying to make sure, like, with the highest degree of certainty, what is the best word to come next in whatever that sentence or paragraph. So if we kind of look at that as the foundation of how we can integrate our systems or our processes with AI, we can start to realize that it can't do certain things that we might think an AI could do, like, go out and try to find new people. It's more reactive than proactive.
All right. So how many in the room live are using ChatGPT on a regular basis? Almost everybody.
Love it.
If you are on the live stream, I want you to put a thumbs up or some sort of indication that if you use AI or use ChatGPT on a regular basis. I know that I use it practically every single day.
Same.
I use it for ideation. So if I'm thinking I need an idea about something, I'll just go in there and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Give me ideas, and boom, it'll give me some ideas. I use it to do all of my creative writing. So these two books that are mine, everybody gets a copy of these. If you're here live, I'm gonna give you a copy of these books. Were the last two books ever written without ChatGPT, I'm pretty sure, because they were published before ChatGPT became a thing. But I use it I write every newsletter, every copy for my website, every piece of anything that goes out. ChatGPT is where I start. Now, I don't just take what ChatGPT gives me and immediately push it out, because sometimes it doesn't sound right, and it uses words that people who know me know I wouldn't use those words. So you've got to massage it a little bit, and you can teach it. But that's the cool thing about this being artificial intelligence, is that it can learn from you the more you give it input. It can predict, okay, Jason would say this word, but he wouldn't say this word.
Yeah, within reason. They're getting better, and certain things like custom instructions that ChatGPT has released help, push that a little bit further. The way that we're starting to see ChatGPT really kind of take hold is the idea of content generation versus the reactive scenarios that we were kind of just mentioning. And there's a very clear delineation between these two scenarios. So ChatGPT for content and text generation is fantastic. Similarly to like Poe or Claude 2, these are kind of other similar software platforms that you can use to do text content generation. That is kind of one side of the AI sphere where we're talking about creation of stuff. There's this whole other side, which is more of the enhance, not the replace side, where a good example could be a customer support solution. So a lot of businesses have live chat customer support solutions on their website, which could cost X amount of hours per VA. If you're having VAs sit on there, that takes X amount of time for those people to respond. So there's a true real cost to that. If you can add AI into that system or into that scenario to help reduce the amount of tickets and provide customers with instant responses, that can drastically reduce the costs that you have to have live paid people sitting on that customer chat support, live chat, and the customers are happier because they're getting answers faster and more accurate, essentially.
Yeah. So if you got a chat bot on your website, the idea here is there's down at the bottom left-hand or bottom right-hand corner, it says, hey, do you have a question? Maybe there's some pre-filled in questions, and you click on the one you want, and the chat bot knows the answers based on the way the input is given.
Exactly.
And that's cheaper, obviously, than having a human sit on a computer somewhere and wait for questions to pop in and somebody to answer those questions.
Yeah.
This is essentially part of what we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly.
Is how to set that up so that your website traffic has some interaction. It's not just static. They go to the website, look at it, and then leave. There's interaction that happens. Even if it is AI interaction, it's still interaction that happens.
Yeah. So one of the things that ChatGPT has as kind of a restriction is this thing called context window. And so if you're familiar with an error code that if any of you have ever gotten, where you try to paste in too much text into ChatGPT, and it's like, oh, it gives you like a little red error code. Oh, I can't look at this much data. That's called the context window. And what that means is the amount of characters or words that we're entering into that prompt that is then sent to OpenAI to generate a response, and then we receive that response back in our ChatGPT window is too much. It's too much data, too much content. So the way that AI chatbots work is, instead of uploading all of the data about a business all at once in every single prompt, we have to figure out a way to kind of split all of that data to make it fit inside a prompt for OpenAI and ChatGPT. And so this is where, again, we start to kind of see a split on how AI is used, not only by the system, but by us as business owners or as users of these platforms, where we need to provide it contextual information based. A good example could be, let's say I have I sell an aquarium product, and a customer, and it's all based on the size of aquarium. So a customer comes to me and says, I have a 165-gallon tank. How many bottles of your solution do I need to buy? The way that you could train an AI to understand that question within context is to tell it a little bit of information about, okay, each bottle provides 10 ounces of solution equal, and that is good for 10 gallons of, within a tank. You could then say, okay, this is the calculation for how many bottles this person would need. And because of the conversational aspects that ChatGPT has, that OpenAI has created, you could essentially give all that information inside a prompt, adding in the user's query, how many bottles do I need for a 165-gallon tank? And because it has that type of context, it can then give a natural response that is good for the client to be like, oh, you need 10 bottles, here's a link to purchase, and there you go. And so that's how we can start to enhance these systems where people aren't waiting for a response by that customer support person. They don't have to go to a search bar or look at the knowledge base. They can just simply ask a question in conversation and go to where they want to go instantly.
All right. So why don't we dive into what you were going to show us today in your mind map? Is that, you ready to do that yet?
Well, yeah, let's preface it a little bit. So there's kind of two parts to how we've been introducing AI into the businesses that we work with. And it's all kind of into relation of lead generation. How do we capture more leads and then convert those leads into either meetings for the sales team, or ideally money and clients on the top of funnel? AI and automation can sit at these two different pieces. So the first part that we're going to talk about today, and that we have a mind map, is all in relation to Instagram and DM automation. And this is the strategy that I've been using, that I've helped implement into a lot of businesses, that is the best lead generation strategy for social media today, by far, hands down. And I actually did a post this morning that I'll be able to show everyone a little bit later to kind of illustrate that. It's happening right now in my latest post. So if everyone online, if you go to my ecomross profile on Instagram, the latest post is called the last prompt, or the God prompt. And there's a call to action in that, and you can see kind of how that flows. And there's a lot of comments already on that video that go into this flow. And so that's a little bit in depth there, but to step back for a second, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to attract new customers for whatever business entity that you have, and then work that customer through a automated warming sequence on Instagram. It keeps them on platform. Then it moves them to a landing page. That landing page has an AI chatbot that can answer those questions in relation to that scenario that I just mentioned with the aquariums. And that creates a conversation that can get people to book a meeting faster. And if you're running traffic through this at scale, you're providing more information, more links, and more opportunities for people to book meetings faster, easier, all the things.
Is it just Instagram, or can it be on other platforms?
It's mainly for Instagram. We've been integrating it where on other platforms we direct people back to Instagram. So like, for instance, on TikTok, you can kind of do a similar thing, but the idea is to leverage the platform that allows us to automate it at scale. And with Instagram, there are specific tools, ManyChat being one of the big ones, that allows us to set up these automations at scale for extremely low cost to drive a lot of action.
Mm-hmm. So how many of you have an Instagram account? Everybody on Instagram? So almost everybody's on Instagram. What about anybody got a chat bot already on your website? Anybody? Okay. Okay. So I used to use a chat bot on the website for a while back on one of the previous generations of my website. And it was very interesting, but I didn't understand how it worked. And it was pre-chat GPT, pre the AI revolution.
Yeah.
So this was a couple of years ago. And now I'm very interested in seeing how to integrate my Instagram account into the website chatbot, so that I get more opportunities to talk to people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really like the good thing about the mind map that we'll show people is it's kind of the 10,000 foot view. You want to be sure that you have this kind of larger view of the structure, so that way you can focus on making sure that the important pieces are actually done, so that way the rest of the system actually works. And I think that's where we can kind of go into a little bit more depth a little bit later about some of those pieces as well.
All right, so let's do this. I'm going to unplug this here and go to, I'll hand you the laptop. You should be able to click on that and go. Actually, it's already open, I think. Yeah, so that one already open.
There we go. All right. All right, so the idea here is we're trying to obviously enhance, not replace what we're doing. So the cool thing about this is, especially if you already have an Instagram account and you're already creating content, this will drastically boost what you're already doing. And one of the pieces of feedback I get from this was like, well, if I don't have a big Instagram following or an account or yada yada, I've done this for businesses that have like 5 followers or 50 followers, almost brand new accounts. I'll say, set this up, and then they come back to me a few days later, like, how do we automate this? Like, we need to get the automations going because we're starting to get so much action through the door. So the key here, and I'll kind of preface this. So the whole idea here is we're generating leads for our business, and it's all being done in an automated system. So that way we are building our email list, we're warming people up, and we're positioning our offer in relation to the content that they're seeing. So it all starts kind of over here where we're creating content. It then flows through an automated DM system that uses AI and automation to gather the keyword that people are sending, and then we respond automatically with more information. And it then sends people to a landing page where we can then capture their information, and then ideally get them to book a meeting with you or your sales team, or however you structure your offers or your business. And so the whole idea is we're trying to make it so that way this entire part, everything over here is automated, so that way we only have to focus about creating good content. So the first part of this is actually the content piece, and we'll go more over this in the VIP section of like kind of what you actually need to do or how to actually create this type of content, because it's all related into adding value to your customers. So if we can position a piece of content that is quick and easy for people to take action on that, we can then ideally generate them as a lead for our business. And so the key here, this is the big thing. We want to change every single call to action on every single post to DM the name of your account with a specific keyword for more information. And so in this example, what I have is DM me the keyword top 100, and I'll send you my top 100 favorite AI tools. And the automations that I set up will be able to deliver that information automatically to the people who DM this to me. Now, the reason why we are specifically asking people to DM us and not go to my link in bio or go to a website or whatever it may be is because we're actually aligning our strategy by doing this with Instagram and Meta's overall directive of connecting people with other people and keeping them on platforms so that Instagram can serve them more ads, which is what they want. So this also helps us by increasing one of the most sought after metrics on Instagram, which is profile visits. This is one of the things that gets people to DM you, engage with your account. This is also one of the best things that you can use for retargeting later with your ads, which is huge. because they've now been captured into your audience on Instagram and Facebook. So again, this really helps because we're keeping people on the platform. People are DMing us, which allows us to have that conversation. We're not going to them; they're coming to us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you want to pause for anybody get questions live in the room? Or on the live stream, if anybody's got questions up to this point for clarification purposes, this is good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Rusty.
There's similar capabilities like within LinkedIn. So if our clients are primarily sitting on LinkedIn, am I having to try to force them into Insta or?
No. So
repeat that question for the people online so they can hear.
Yeah. So the question was, can you set this type of automation up for LinkedIn? So the answer is yes. It's not with the same app, but you can do similar automations, and I'll be able to show you some stuff that we can do that for. Yeah.
Good question. Anybody else? Questions?
Cool. So as we start to create content and start to get people to interact with that type of content, we now need to have, what happens when someone DMs us. So when someone DMs us the keyword, it's going to look like this to the user. So in this example, the keyword is AI SaaS, and the response is a similar mind map to this and a YouTube tutorial. And so this is where the first kind of AI automation piece comes into play. The system is detecting which keyword that the user is sending, and then is going to respond with a correlated message that is related to that keyword that they are sending. So that's the first piece of value add that we're offering to these clients or to these potential clients. Where this gets kind of fun is on the secondary message. So by this point, people have seen our video, and now they've taken action and received this first piece of content. So we're now starting to, whether we are doing this on purpose or not, we're starting to psychologically condition each of these leads to take the information that we're giving them and then take action upon that information. So they saw the video, they DM'd us. Now we gave them something, and now that is typically going to be something where they have to opt in. And so this is a scenario that I've set up with another resource called Gumroad. Gumroad is a really cool resource because it allows you to offer free value to potential prospects or clients, but it also allows you the ability to collect donations. So for certain people that are willing to provide money upfront for a free item, that person is way more likely to purchase an actual paid offer product than somebody from Bangladesh who just wants it for free, right? And so this is one of the ways that you can monetize your top of funnel content, but it's also kind of like a pseudo qualification where you can figure out, okay, who's actually willing to pay any sort of money in relation to what the stuff that I'm actually talking about. And so Gumroad's a cool way to do that. And this can be done in a lot of different platforms. It's essentially just a email capture scenario, but in this way you can actually provide a little bit more information and do these kind of pseudo qualification metrics. So that's from the first DM. Where things get really, really fun and exciting is where the secondary message comes in. And so this is where we start the warming process. So typically when clients come into your funnel or sequences, you'll collect their information and then they get added to an email drip sequence, or maybe they get an automated text message. That's great. But what if you could do 10 messages or 5 messages prior to that? And so the idea is when we set up these automated DMs, that's that system that we're setting up. So that way, prior to us collecting their information and sending them more targeted offers or information, we can figure out and kind of gauge their level of interest by these sequences. And so in this sequence, the user says the initial keyword. The automation will respond with this first message, which is the mind map and the tutorial, but then it will wait about 10 seconds, and then it says a variation of this message. By the way, want to learn how to use AI and automation to create more opportunity for your business? this is the secondary message that can be targeted to your specific clients for your business. So this obviously wouldn't say AI automation if you're, trying to sell real estate. It could be, hey, are you looking for the top 5 best school districts in X neighborhood? And I'll send you that free information. And so the idea is like, it's all in relation to this first piece of content. And that's why I mentioned earlier, like it's really important to know kind of how you're going to structure this first piece, because once you structure that first piece of value, then it sets the tone for the rest of that sequence, where you're now, like I mentioned earlier, you're literally psychologically conditioning the people to accept the information that you're giving them. And then by the end of it, they're going to be thanking you for the offers that you're giving them for your business, even though they're thinking it's, more free value. So we're trying to kind of take a step back for everyone else in the room. Like we're positioning our offer in a way that we're not trying to sell it up front to them. Here's value, here's value, here's value. Oh, by the way, do you want to check out my stuff? Here you go. And by the time that they've downloaded and opted in for 3 things, like they're warm, they're hot. So that's a perfect opportunity to get them on a landing page with a very specific offer that maybe has a video or maybe even just a straight up booking link to get people on a calendar call. And so this is kind of where the back end offer or funnel can be kind of differentiated based off of how each of your businesses kind of work and how you generate leads. But at this point, you can kind of funnel people into any direction, whether that's have your sales team call them directly or book a meeting or whatever it may be. And so that entire system uses that type of automation to then leverage everything else, where you can then capture that information, put them into the typical email follow-up and nurture that you might expect or that you might already have set up. And this is where the funnel or the circle of all this kind of starts to come in play. So yeah.
So are you saying that based on your experience that it's good to give 3 value added propositions first, or is there any magic?
About 2.
Make sure you repeat the question for
So the question was, how many pieces of value should you add in this sequence? We've seen about 2 or 3 being kind of the magic number, and that's within the lens of it being quick information. So this isn't a 45-minute video course or a 30-page document. It's a quick bullet point list. It's a quick article or a quick video. It's quick and easy information that people can take action on to see if they themselves are willing to go down the next line in the funnel. Good question.
How many of you have been caught in a funnel where all they want to do is sell you something? You didn't get anything in value whatsoever. Well, what this does, this system, of course, that's AI too. Like they're using AI, they're just doing it wrong. That's why we're doing this EMS Live here with Ross, to show you how do we get this person who raised their hand and said, I'm kind of interested in what you're doing. I really don't know much about it. Show me more. Okay, they don't want to get on a phone call with you yet. They don't want to sit down and talk. They don't want to sign up for your $8,000 course yet. They don't want it. What they want to know is, do you care about me? Do you care of what I'm dealing with? Do you know? And so where Ross is setting this up is you can do these PDFs. Maybe it's a 1-page PDF of value. And I know James is in the mortgage business, so that's really like what are current rates or hot neighborhoods or something like that. I mean, Bobby's in digital marketing, Jake's in consulting. I mean, you've got a car service, among other things. I mean, we've got a plethora of different businesses here. There is value pieces that you can create to add in this AI chat to give. So somebody raised their hand, kind of interested. Hey, well, here's a free document on how to do ABC, and they get the free document. Oh, that was cool. And then, hey, by the way, would you like something on this other thing too? Well, sure.
Yeah.
And then that's where you go and say, okay, well, now you've liked these 2 pieces of content. If you'll sign up for this thing, I'll give you access to even more stuff. Yeah. Now you've captured a contact. You've got an email. You've got maybe a phone number. and now you can start reaching out to these
Exactly.
people. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it's cool too, because you can set it up to be conversational. So when you set it up like this, you get these natural responses. You're the man, Ross. Thank you. Like, that is a response that I see as an unread DM when I now go to my DMs that I can then follow up. Hey, great. I'm happy you liked the piece of content. Have any questions about that? Like, if I know that that person hasn't gone through the funnel. And that's kind of where the system kind of ends at for this specific piece. But the AI piece kind of picks up on the other end, which is where after we get them to a landing page, that's where that conversation can continue.
Mm-hmm.
So in this first part, they've received a ton of value. Maybe they've opted in. Maybe they've already signed up as a customer. Maybe they haven't. Where that conversation where that conversation can continue is on the landing page. That landing page has an AI chatbot that could respond to the question or the value that was given in this previous sequence. So for example, the first question to lead off the AI chatbot when someone lands on that page could be, hey, what did you think about that resource that I sent you in the DMs? And so it creates that consistency where it's not like, oh, I'm talking to a new AI chat. It's just the extension or the enhancement of Ross and his systems.
Good. I love it. Rusty's got a question.
Here's an off question.
Yeah.
Do you use your personal phone for this, for the DMs, like the text and all that stuff? And is your phone just going off all the time?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Well, so I mean, for notifications, and everything, I mean, it's all muted. It's not like it's actively popping up. But every time I open up Instagram and then I go to my DMs and I click unread, there's just.
Sure, but that looks like, was that a text though?
No, this is Instagram.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not giving my phone number out.
Okay.
Definitely
Got
not.
it, got it.
Yeah. No.
That's good. That's good questions. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Ron.
Yeah.
So,
Make sure to repeat the question. I'm going to step away to the restroom. I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
and if you're getting here later, you don't have to spend much time on this, but just looking at this and thinking about you with thousands of, so logistically, like, can you talk a little bit about how you keep this organized? Like, if you're looking at this, how you know where they are, when should you step in, when should you not step? Are you interrupting an automated flow? How do you keep this organized?
Exactly. Yeah. So typically, where this ends for the automation piece is this last piece of value. So the three sequences will give them they'll get the video, they get the first piece, and then they get the call to action to get them to one of my landing pages where they opt into a meeting with my team. I guess when I look at the DMs, it's a unread response. So when I look and try to respond, I know that person's done with the initial sequence, and they're most likely saying a yes or a thank you very much. And then I know that they're they're in the sequence. They're in the system somewhere. So I leave it, and I will proactively respond when I can, as like, hey, I'm a real person here, because that's one of the key things is a lot of the times people will understand that this is automation. This isn't actually me. But then when I come back 5 minutes later and be like, hey man, what'd you think about that? They're like, oh, you're actually real. And so that can then continue the conversation in more of a natural way, where the AI started it off at scale. Like, that could have been the one of 1,000 people that I would have missed otherwise. But now that it was an unread in my DMs, and I can go back and look through the sequence and see how they kind of went through it in the DMs, and see the past ones, because I have a lot of people that will opt in for multiple different offers on the DMs. And then I can kind of see, oh, they opted in for the top 100. They opted in for the AI SaaS offer. Like, I know this person needs to get on a call or whatever. And so I can put more focus and attention on them, or my team can log in via one of the other platforms to help manage because I also have that as well.
So I guess to expand on what he is saying.
Yeah.
You have a finite conclusion, finite loop. That's not even a loop, but a finite finite ending to the AI conversation, so that you know exactly that it's done and that it's not going to continue to answer questions in some sort of fashion or way.
Correct. On this scenario, on Instagram.
Right.
On the website chatbot where it can continue. So there's kind of there's two separate pieces. So this, what I just showed everyone, this is AI automation. This is more of an automation piece that uses a little bit of AI. And I know these are all kind of like, general terms, but the next piece where that chatbot is actually sitting on the website, more of a ChatGPT-ish, type of solution, that's where that conversation could continue forever, theoretically.
What prompts you to respond though? Like how do we know, okay, it's time for me to send it?
Like if it's a hot client or a hot prospect or something like that. Typically, it's their response to the value. So if they have a question, instead of them saying like, hey, thank you, they respond with a question about that information that I just gave them. And it tells me that they not only downloaded the information, so I have their information, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to look at it. They actually looked at the stuff. So that it's actually a little, in my opinion, it's a little bit worth more of my time to actually engage with that person to see if I can follow up to for them to actually book that meeting. Because that, in my funnel, that's always the goal, is to get them on a date, on a first meeting on a date first, and then we'll try to close them after on a second.
Does that come in the form of like the chatbot sends you an email or a message, or like how are you getting that? Are you getting the notification that you need to go in there and start handling a client?
Yes.
Because honestly, I mean, you're here today. You get 500, DMs or something.
Yeah.
And you don't get back till tomorrow.
Yeah.
So unless you're checking it all the time or getting some kind of a notification, right, that it's done.
Yeah.
Or that it's ready for you to jump in.
Yeah. So
you'd be constantly looking at it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the key or the goal is not for me to have to do that. I want to let the automation do the 90% of the bulk of the work. So that way, when in my leisure, I can go and say, oh, Joe just responded and had this question about this specific topic. I know that all of my funnel and all the information that I've set up in this sequence is going to help Joe get through that entire process without me intervening. Me intervening is that extra little push that Joe might need to go from, a paying client in a month to a paying client tomorrow. So it's not a necessary thing. It's more of just, again, it's another enhancement that allows me to, at scale, look at just my unreads and not the hundreds of messages that I'm getting on a daily basis. Because no one wants to do that.
I think we'd all like the problem with 500 DMs we haven't read, people asking questions, but it is an issue. But I doubt we're going to be there that fast, because there's other issues that we can, or other solutions to this. And this is where you're enhancing. So if you have a virtual assistant, if you have somebody who's into your account, you could get into that. You can say, hey, I need you to log in, check the DMs. If there's anything I need to respond to, alert me. And then you just go and respond to that one.
Yeah. And I'd say at scale, the amount of DMs that I'm having to respond to is significantly less than what I would do without this system enabled. And that's that's the reason why I've had this enabled for the last 6+ months, is because I'm able to, at scale, focus on creating content that drives leads without me having to engage with those leads until after they've booked a call. And at that point, I know that they're at least more legitimate than someone who hasn't.
Mm-hmm. We got a question from online.
People are wanting to know if you can quickly repeat those questions.
Repeat which questions?
The ones that were just.
Oh, yeah. So James asked, how do you manage dealing with 500 messages? And that was the question we just answered there. Brandon asked, what was your question specifically? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I was asking what if there's a trigger and a message that follows from the chatbot to you to say, hey, I should take over. And it sounds like your goal is to make this whole thing to where you don't have to do any of that. And if you have eyes on and you see something interesting, then you can jump in. right?
Correct.
Yeah, repeat that so that online can hear it and then answer that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try.
try to
So,
noodle that
the
down.
question was asked: does the chat bot, is there a trigger somewhere that alerts you of when you should get involved as the human, not as the automation to answer? And the answer to that really is no.
Is
There's
really
not,
no.
There's not a way to specifically do that. That's where you're just going to be paying attention. And I will say this, as someone who spends a ton of time on Instagram for business purposes, I'm not just watching people dance. Like, I'm actually on there doing business. This is how this whole thing came about, because of Instagram. Melissa, you were in a webinar that I spoke at a couple weeks ago, and then you DM me after, and then I invited you to this. Like, I live in Instagram for business purposes. I recognize and understand the delay in people responding to me. So if I reach out to someone and I'm in a bot, sometimes I don't know I'm in a bot because it's really very authentic in the way they've written it. Sometimes I know. But either way, I'm not offended. I just know that's how business is done. I'm patiently waiting for them to get back to me. And sometimes I have to go back and say, hey, did you get my message? And I might have to do that 2 or 3 times. And then they'll finally go, oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't see it. That's pretty common. So I don't think that if you end up being that guy, you're going to lose an opportunity because you didn't respond immediately. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. And I mean, Instagram is also pushing more updates that kind of restrict our abilities to do some of these things at scale. So for example, on last Wednesday, I believe, the Instagram pushed an update that no longer you have the ability to only cold outbound DM one DM until, and that's it. Previously, you could send as many as many as you want. Now that's restricted. So the way that we're using this system is pushing people to DM us first, which then allows that conversation to be completely opened. And that won't happen otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to DM you first for this sequence to happen.
So the setting of this up, we'd be lying if we didn't say this was a little bit like detail. I don't know what word I'm looking for. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time to set this up, because you got to think, okay, what is my end goal that I want this prospect to do? What do I want them to do at the end of the day? And now I've got to build backwards from, this is what I want them to do at the end of the day. Well, I should do it the other direction, so you go in the right direction, right? So if this is what I want them to do at the end of the day, what do they have to do right before that? And then what they have to do right before that. And that leads to what the heck keyword am I going to give to trigger all this stuff? Because you can't be recording a piece of content like I've done so many times, and I'm in the middle of recording it off the cuff and go, DM me the word, and I'm like thinking, and I say a word. But the keywords have to be are really strategic too, because it can't be just a word that somebody might DM you in conversation. Because if it's that word, it triggers the bot. Exactly. And then the person's like, what the hell's going on? That's not what I asked. It's not what so it has, like what was yours? It was AI SaaS.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say that.
It's always
I didn't know what
weird.
That word was when it was up there a second ago. Yeah. AI SaaS? I don't know what that word is. So you got to come up with very specific groupings of words and numbers that isn't too complicated, because people are watching a video. They don't see it necessarily.
Yeah.
But the keyword, so you start with what do you want them to do? And then, okay, what would they do before that? What piece of value would I add before that? Blah, 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 all the way to this is the key word. Now, once that's built, Ross, am I correct? Once that's built, you've got this system built, you can create content to your heart's desire and just use that keyword.
Exactly.
And you could even trigger that with different keywords and track which keyword did it, right?
Exactly. Correct? Yeah. So, and this is how you can create different offers or different types of content to keep things fresh for your audience. So if we, follow that train of thought all the way back to that first piece of content, what are we actually making, and what is that call to action or that DM offer with the keyword? Well, the way I typically will try to offer advice on this for people is, if we think about this as your core business or your core offer, your product, your service, whatever it may be, we're never actually making content about this. We're making content around it. So a good example is I always like going to the real estate example, because real estate agents are all over the place when it comes to content. One of the best things that you can do for that piece or that type of audience is stuff that a home buyer is actually looking or interested in. And so if they're a family, they're interested in the schools or in the neighborhoods or the parks. They're not necessarily interested on another house tour. So like making a house tour video versus here's the top 5 restaurants in the strip mall down the street from X school, that's actual value that someone will take in as, hey, I'm actually interested in that information. That's that piece that you've now captured them versus something that no one's interested in.
That might have been the best piece of content all day right there, folks. That's really, really, I'm going to say this again because that's so good. You're building content for your business. You know, and everybody's got different businesses. You guys watching online, different businesses. Don't do content about the core. Do content around the core. That's genius. I screw that up every day.
Yeah.
I do that wrong every day.
Yeah.
So
I do it too. And it's hard because like we want to promote and sell our stuff. But if we think about how we like to be sold to, or like you said, how many times have you gone through a funnel and it's like, it's just BS, right? If you can actually provide value upfront with no, barriers, you're setting yourself and your business up as that authority figure. So that way, when that customer is interested or, they'll come back to you, whether it's in your DMs or email or whatever, they're going to come back to you like, hey, I know that you're legitimate. I know because I've already got so much information from you for free.
Yeah, I'm thinking about. I've had people in my circle of advisors and coaches and mentors tell me that things like what you just said, and it never hit until just now. But like I could help. What I do, I teach clients how to exit without exiting. That's my thing. But part of that is finding the right people to work in your business. So I could produce, and I have a document called the 10 Steps to Find, Hire, and Onboard New Team Members. That's a 2 or 3 page, maybe it's a little longer than that, but it's a PDF document that I've had created, and I don't do anything with it, like nothing. And it should be, I should talk about how to hire people, how to onboard people, how to find right people, do videos about this, set up a sequence that leads them to, hey, DM me the word hire right or something, and I'll send you a free PDF on how to find and hire the right employees. They get that, then they get to the next thing, and eventually they'll see me as an expert, say, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Would you like to talk to one of my team members about how you can exit without exit or something?
Exactly.
So I could, rather than going straight for the jugular, hey, I'll teach you how to exit your business without exiting, sign up for a call.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
And then that first touch point with that client can be, hey, what'd you think about that resource that the 10 steps in hiring?
Yeah.
Like it leads off the conversation in a positive manner that is all value driven. It's not about the sale, even though that's obviously what we all want, but it's all positioning and like it's all this psychological stuff, and it works.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of this automation that we're talking about is if once you go through the process of designing and setting this up, which is tedious, it's going to take a little bit of time, but once that's set up, now you're just making content with the right keywords, and it's just automations. So you can think about it from what you do in lead generation on digital ads, mortgages, consulting, black car service, or anything that we've got going on. I mean, my goat, you with Neil, your company. I mean, you've got people that it's all about cutting grass, taking care of and it's reducing the carbon footprint of all of the diesel and the gas powered stuff out there. So what content could you build to give value to lead someone to go, you know what, I want to book a call with these guys and talk to them about doing my golf course or doing my cemetery or something, right? I mean, this is what we could all do in every one of our businesses.
Yeah. It's all structured around the value around the product and service. So, it's like how could you spend more time with your family by not having to mow your lawn? Here are top 5 reasons. Number 4 is one of your products. So it's like you can kind of structure and kind of seed in some of the ideas in the top of funnel as well. With the how to hire people, if you put that on a Gumroad, for example, as a free offer, I can guarantee that people will pay for it because they'll see that as additional added value. Like, oh, I can't take this for free. But on your end, in your team, then you guys know that, okay, this guy paid me $10 for something that anybody could have gotten for free. He's maybe someone we should, take a little bit more look at.
Yeah, this is good. What thoughts you got going through your mind right now, either online, watching on our live stream, or in the room? Anybody?
If you don't have a big following like you guys do.
All right, repeat the question.
Yeah.
before
So
you
what
answer.
if you don't have a big following on Instagram? Does this work? How do you structure this? So I love that question because I've done this for a couple businesses that have just started out, brand new, and so I'll tell them just focus on the content piece. Just add the DM the sequence. Don't worry about actually automating any of it with software. Just create a piece of content and say DM me the keyword. That's when I'll get an email a few days later. How do we automate this? It's working. Like, I don't know how to respond to all these. And so the idea is like, you can set this up for free with nothing. You'll see that it starts to work, and then start to leverage some of these automations to like really take that thing and make it go farther.
I know some of my clients are on right now too, and maybe spend a little time on this, but how much of this does differ, because we all focus on LinkedIn, that's where our clients are. So is it just the tool sets that change? Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
So
question is how does this look in relation to LinkedIn versus Instagram? The concepts are the exact same. We want to create content that doesn't ask for the sale. We want to create content that asks for we're providing value in exchange for a little bit of information. And so in a similar way, without automating it first, the content piece could be similarly added. DM us or message us through Sales Navigator, whatever it may be, and then we'll send you that link. That can start the sequence to then be automated. And there's other apps. I'm pretty sure Zapier and ManyChat can do LinkedIn, and I'll confirm on that a little bit.
So ManyChat is a tool that we use to do this on Instagram. I think it's $25 a month, so it's not very expensive. It is a little bit, it's above my head or desire to want to learn how to do it. That's why Renee's doing it, right? So, but you set up exactly this mind map. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like that, but it's very similar to this. Like, what's the keyword? What do you want to say after this keyword is said? What happens after this? You set all that up, and then you activate it. And then once you go into Instagram, you could just say, you can test it. Have somebody, say, hey, Jake, send me that keyword banana, whatever, and that keyword comes through, and it automatically starts it.
Yeah, and users are all over the place. So with ManyChat, we have the ability to add multiple variations of the keyword that people will for sure spell wrong. They'll always spell wrong. So you can add multiple variations of the same keyword. You can also add another variation of this. So a lot of people literally don't know how to DM people on Instagram. So instead, they'll comment on the post. And there is another automation within ManyChat that allows you to automatically respond with a link on that comment. Asterisk, Instagram, like I mentioned earlier, Instagram just updated that, made that update. So now we're restricted to only that first message. So the sequencing that we can do with the DM automation is not allowed anymore with the comment automation. So 2 weeks ago, we could have done the same thing at scale for every single comment where someone comments, then the automation will automatically DM that person, and then that sequence is then started. Now that's completely shut off. I had to shut that off last week because my DMs or my story, when I tried to reply to one of your stories, it was like, oh, you're not allowed to send DMs. I'm like, I got to turn off the comment automations because that is directly against what Instagram just updated via their terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
So we turned that one off. Direct message and everything else is still working fine because they are DMing us first.
Yeah, and on this note, just real life stuff. So he and I did promotions for this event. Obviously, most of you are here because of the promotions that we did, and we set it up. Just DM me the word EMS, and you get the information. So we got tons of comments, not DMs, that just said EMS. Well, I pay attention to my Instagram. I don't have as many followers as Ross does, but I pay attention to my Instagram all day, like all day. I'm paying attention to it. So if I saw a comment, because it notifies me, a comment came through EMS, all I did was just go to that comment, hit reply, and plop in the link. Well, actually, I didn't do it in a reply. How did I do it? I guess I DM'd them. I DM'd, hey, you wanted this information. But I'm just copying and pasting. I had to do it automatically because we don't have the automation set up for comments because that's what they just turned off.
Correct. Yeah.
The other thing you could do is say, hey, DM me that word. You can say it again. So if they say it in the comment,
Yeah.
You could reply and say, I need you to DM me that word. And then if they DM, it happens.
A lot of this stuff is fluid too. Instagram is pushing updates. ManyChat's coming out with new automations and sequences that allow us to take advantage of these different things. So one of the new kind of answers that ManyChat has released is we can still work within the comment structure. It just doesn't DM them automatically. So what we could do is set up an automation that says it will respond to them in the comments, but it doesn't also send a DM. So we could have automated that now this week.
It always changes.
Always.
All right. So what about the other side of this? So we've talked about the automations on the front end of the actual social, the social platform. But what about the bot on site? So now you've gone through the whole funnel, whatever you want to call it, automation, and the person then clicks a button and gets onto your website. What happens next?
Exactly. Yeah. So this is where how we understand AI chatbots for businesses specifically really is important. So within relation to ChatGPT, we're all familiar with ChatGPT. It is a large language model that has information that it was trained on from essentially the entire internet. What we want to do is create a chatbot that only knows information about the specific business that chatbot's website is hosted on. So in similar fashion to what I was mentioning earlier about this idea of the context window and how we need to provide information within the length of a prompt that we have the ability to send to OpenAI. That prompt has to contain information from the user, the message that the user sends to the AI chatbot. It has to contain contextual information from the business, and it also has to contain a prompt to tell ChatGPT or tell OpenAI how to respond. And so if we think of this as kind of a stacked offer or a stacked solution, the prompt, and this is what we would all typically put into ChatGPT. I want you to act like a professional copywriter and help me write my emails for my business. That's essentially that's the prompt. And so that's how we're telling the AI to act in a certain way. The piece on top of that is the actual user's query. So if I'm saying, how much does this course cost or whatever, that would be the user's query. And then we have this piece called the knowledge base. And a knowledge base is all the information about a specific business. Now, we can't just add the entire knowledge base to the prompt that we send to OpenAI because it's too long. The context window, it will max out the context window. There's too many characters. So how do we reduce that to make it fit? So the way 99% of AI chatbots are created is by NLP searching, so natural language processing. And so what will happen is a user's message or query will come into the system. That system will then search the user's query against a database of all the information about a specific business. It will then return the top 7 to 10 results from the knowledge base. That is the contextual information that is added to the prompt, which is then sent to OpenAI within the limits of the context window to actually provide a good response that's relevant to the user's question and answers it based off of the information that's in the knowledge base because it's been searched against. And so this is how we can create a massive knowledge base about a lot of different information about a specific business, anything you could possibly think of, anything. And it can then the AI can know everything about that business because when a user is submitting a question or a query, the information that the AI is receiving is only related to that question. And so that way it makes sense to the user, it makes sense to the AI, and at scale, lots of users can question it all at the same time, essentially, and it will know the correct answers to give it every single time. You can do all of that process and then start to add in the sequences that we just talked about on top. So the example I gave earlier about the aquarium and how you can automate that customer service piece and reduce the costs. That's kind of the foundation layer of these AI chatbots and how most companies are using it. But we want to do lead generation. That's our topic today. So we want to, how do we use lead generation in that theme? So in the prompt that we're giving these AI chatbots, we're not only saying, hey, answer, the questions about users in relation to the knowledge base, but also we want to say, ask a user, this specific question, ask a user a question if they're interested in, something else in relation to the information that they saw in the first sequence, the value adds. What do you think about this? Are you interested in this? And these allow the AI to kind of qualify a lead throughout the process. So a good example, I always like giving examples. So another real estate example. You can train an AI chatbot to know, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, all the things, right? But you can also train it to ask a certain set of questions to a user. Are you interested in selling your home? Even if that's not the top of funnel goal of this bot. The bot could be just, I want to learn information about the properties that you have available. It could also ask, how many bedrooms, what's the condition of the property, square footage. Then you literally write in the prompt, here's how you calculate a ballpark quote for this house. And if the user is interested in talking about that quote, give them the quote and then give them a link to schedule a meeting. And so the idea is that entire process of talking to a customer, getting that information, building a quote, either in the past the person had to fill out a form or talk to someone or book a meeting, but at scale, all of that can be done instantly within 30, 60 seconds with an AI chatbot. So that way that user, again, is getting that value, getting that information immediately. They're not having to wait around. And as we know, time to touch is one of the most important things. They're then more likely to book that meeting for the sales team. And then all of that information that has been captured by the AI is then used by the SDR, the sales guy, to then try to convert that customer or that client.
So how do we load all the information into the bot so that it has the knowledge base, the information correct?
Yeah, so there's hundreds of different platforms out there. My platform, Stammer, is one of the platforms that allows you to do this. And so that's kind of the system that I mentioned earlier. And this is how a lot of the different platforms work, because we're all building these AI solutions on top of OpenAI's ChatGPT. So we have to kind of work within their limitations. And so that's why we have to basically create a system that allows businesses to upload their information. And so there's hundreds of platforms out there in varying levels of customization and advance and all these things.
So to be clear, during the VIP, which is during lunch, we're going to help everybody build their first automation, just like what we talked about. And then the super VIP, they're going to get, Stammer is actually going to build the chatbot for your website, complete with all of the database, and give a year's worth of support on
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
So that's $12,000 value right there.
So one of the things that we see quite often when people start to go into the endeavors of creating a knowledge base for an AI chatbot for their business is good data in, good data out. So the whole idea of the second S in SaaS, about how much service you're doing of pre-processing or cleaning that data prior to it being added to a knowledge base for a chatbot, is extremely important. There's an entire market that's popping up to just clean data prior to it going into these chatbots. And so that information can be very specific to very specific products or a very specific flow that a customer is most likely to go through. Typically, when we install customer chatbots on websites, they will reduce about 80% of the average customer question volume. And that's because 80% of those questions are typically all the same. And so in relation to your business, if you know that there's a large percentage of those questions or that sequence that is most likely to happen for an average consumer or customer, then you can start to leverage these AI to enhance that system to not have to have someone sitting on it live the whole time.
All right, this is good. All right, so what about some questions? We've got about 45 minutes left in our time together today. Questions from online, if you're on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, if you got questions about that, or anybody here about the chatbot or the automation on the front end.
So if I understand, I've got a website I've also got a knowledge base that's already built out, like in Atlassian or something along those lines. So what you're saying is there's a plug-in to my website, some sort of, maybe it's Stammer or something along those lines. It's talking and pulling from my knowledge base. Is that as simple as it is?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And does Stammer, and if you need to repeat the question, go for it. And do I understand this though? Is Stammer, am I potentially a client of Stammer, or does Stammer, I go to someone that is reselling Stammer?
Exactly. Because I'm talking to you directly, the question is how does Stammer essentially work? For everyone in the room, you'd be working directly with us and our team at Stammer, not a third party. Even though our target core customer and avatar is those third parties. We started out by introducing this to businesses directly because we actually wanted to make sure the product actually worked.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a one-to-many.
Exactly.
And then the first question that you asked was a good one. It's like, hey, we have a website, we have a knowledge base.
Yeah.
But what Stammer does, among other platforms, is it connects those two so that the bot on the website is pulling from the correct knowledge base.
Exactly. And so the way that this is actually done is it will physically download all of the information from your knowledge base in a text format and add that to a knowledge base that is sitting on whatever system that the AI is being controlled. And that allows us to query that knowledge base against the user's message. And this is the most important part.
So if I've got some things kind of behind a paywall that only my subscribers get to learn about or have answers to, I would disassociate that
Correct.
from the knowledge base. I might have knowledge base 1, knowledge base 2. You're pulling from knowledge base 1.
Exactly. And so you would exclude it from, so the question is how do you make sure that if there's specific data that you want paying customers to see and not see, you could exclude that data from the first knowledge base. You could also include a little statement or a line in the prompt for that first one that says, if someone was to ask about that information, that could point them to upsell them to the next one, or upsell them to a landing page or a link or another piece of value offer.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's good.
This might be a silly question, but how do you generate a knowledge base? Am I like missing something?
So a knowledge base is
So like if I'm in the mortgage business, right?
Yeah.
So my knowledge base is whatever's out there on the internet or whatever. I don't have like a database of just information.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Yeah, so the question is, how do you create a knowledge base if you don't have a knowledge base? There's a lot of different ways that you can add information into. So a knowledge base is kind of just like a placeholder term that we're using to all the data about your specific business or your specific offer. So if it's more generic or more general to the mortgage industry, that information should be specified specifically to you, not general. So the information that you would add to the knowledge base is more about your company, the programs, the stuff that you guys specifically offer, because on the back end, OpenAI essentially should know all the general stuff about mortgage stuff. So as long as you tell and allow it to answer those questions in a general fashion and give it the ability to understand the information that's related to you and your business, it will then be able to know both and give appropriate responses to the different answers that people give.
So the knowledge base that we're really looking to build is going to be things like pricing.
Exactly.
And like all the details specific to your business.
Exactly.
And essentially it could just be like hey, this is the minimum requirements to apply for a loan with us. You have to have a 690, credit score. Your DTI has to be below 30% or whatever, and then you're just listing everything out, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
criteria.
Yeah, exactly. So the question: how do you build a knowledge base with what type of information? So exactly, pricing, specifics of what a customer might actually ask.
It's like FAQs.
Exactly.
It's FAQs on steroids.
Exactly.
It's your frequently asked questions that people, like I have FAQs on my site, not very many, but we could take that and spend time, and your team would, I guess, help guide us in the process to say, what are the questions that are asked, and then that's what we're going to build. We're going to build a knowledge base based on the FAQ.
Exactly. So the technical side of how a knowledge base is built within our platform, there's a couple different ways that you can add information. You can type and copy and paste in text just generically. You could upload PDFs or documents or other types of text files. You could enter in a website URL and scrape the content directly from a website. So if you have FAQs, that's one of the best ways that you can add information into a knowledge base, because that's directly related to how a user is going to interact with that chatbot. Sending a query, getting a response. That's exactly how FAQs work. So if a knowledge base, if you start your knowledge base off with all of your FAQs, that's one of the best ways that you can kind of jumpstart this process to then leverage more of the generic information that might be hosted on your about page or something like that, that you can then add later.
How often can you change the knowledge base? For example, if pricing changes, like I know for in the mortgage business, you've got the rates changed every month or every day rather. And so is there a way to pull that in where if one of the FAQs is what are today's rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage, that he would want the chatbot to be able to answer that. Well, rates are ranging between blank and blank, but can that change frequently?
So as it stands right now, you would have to have some ability to pull that data in from another source. So as long as you're able to do that on a time-sensitive basis, whether it's a day or a month, as long as that data is actively pulled into the knowledge base, then the AI chatbot will know that information. The scenario where it's done automatically, I am not aware of a solution that exists for that scenario today, but I'm getting ideas and I might just have to make that.
Well, and then, but if we wanted to change pricing, if Rusty's offering is $10,000 today, and he's going to up it next month to $12,000, is it pretty easy to go in and just make that quick shift in the
Exactly.
price?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are great.
Yeah.
Who's doing it well? You have like 2 examples on the B2B side and B2C side.
Yeah, so the e-commerce example I gave earlier with the aquarium, that's actually a real business, Greenwater Labs. They've been able to reduce their customer support tickets by 80%. And that dropped they saved almost $3,500 a month in customer support costs. And they're paying, I think, $50 a month for a chatbot. And so that allowed them to not only reduce their costs, but it pushed more people to get to leave reviews. That was their big thing. Their sales were fine because they're a small company, so they're not trying to actually like really scale right now. They're really focused on reviews and customer support. So their call to action in their bot was to leave a review, not necessarily go and purchase another item. And that allowed their 4- and 5-star reviews to go up by 36%. So, and that was within, I mean, it was less than a month that those numbers were reported back to us. So it's insane. And we were like, okay, this actually kind of works. The other one is the real estate. So we have a few real estate investors that have trained the bots to, at scale, provide ballpark quotes that then prompt the user to book a meeting. And then the person on the other end is able to look at the chat conversation, gather the information that the user prompted, and then come to that call with more information about a ballpark quote or the next steps, whatever it may be. And so that one has been, I don't have the specific percentage increases on that one off the top of my head, but the amount that they were able to, it's just the quantity. So they were able to provide, 100 more quotes, then X amount were be able to convert because they were able to just provide more in general.
So those are B2Cs. Because all my clients are B2B, they're consultants, business consultants, strategic advisors, business coaches.
Yeah.
And they're trying to talk to business leaders. Can you give an example of that?
Yeah. So if we try to make one for Jason or myself, we could make like Jason AI and upload all of the information about Jason's books and his articles and all this information. And then we could train the chatbot to instead act as a customer support agent, to instead act as a marketing assistant or a business coach or something like that. And the way that a user would interact and prompt with that specific chatbot is, hey, I have a question about how to hire people. Oh, here's the information from that top 10 article, consolidated down into 3 bullet point list, and here's a link to learn more about it.
Who does it
not work well for?
President.
Law
President.
stuff.
Mm,
So, and this is something that we don't necessarily have control in because this is on OpenAI side. And I don't know, has anybody kind of had the feeling that ChatGPT is like not working as well recently? Anybody? Yeah. So, in my opinion, I think this is because OpenAI is looking at their liability in terms of the responses that they're giving. When we were talking about this last night at dinner, when it first came out in November, you could ask it like, how do I make a meth lab, and it would tell, oh, step one, like it gives you the entire steps
Get some
list.
Sudafed.
Yeah. Right? But now if you ask it like, what happens, if I get pulled over, it might say, hey, I'm not able to give legal advice, even though that's not, is that legal? I don't know. But so it's things like that where I think in relation to how the actual models are being directed, and I think it's not necessarily like, good or bad. It's just how they're looking at terms of liability and how we can then leverage that information to our best ability.
Does that come on to us as if we put these chatbots on our websites and this and that, do we now have liability that we just assumed?
That's a good question. So, I mean, the question is, do you have liability if you have chatbots on this? The way that our terms of service work for Stammer is we essentially say the only time your data is exposed or we're showing is when it's sent to OpenAI and being received from OpenAI. So we defer responsibility back to OpenAI. I would recommend the same.
So you touched on the knowledge base getting behind a paywall, and so from an intellectual property perspective or playing offense or defense in industry, if you're creating a knowledge base by using ChatGPT to list an interactive FAQ in your chatbot, how concerned should you be about content that's behind your own paywall, video libraries, et cetera? And then what's the accessibility of that information of your competitors?
In relation to them being able to look at that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a two-way street, right?
Gotcha.
You create your own knowledge base for your own website by pulling and scraping from others.
Yes. Yeah. So how do you make a knowledge base? By using data from both your business and other competitors?
And how would you protect your own?
And protect your own. So in the last couple months, a lot of companies have come out by saying that they're stopping the ability to scrape their websites. So like Amazon, Wikipedia, Apple, all the big guys have essentially added scripts to their website that don't allow you to scrape their website. That is the first step to kind of assume control over that. That being said, when you look at some of these systems, that's not really realistic for the majority of us. As long as that information is excluded from the knowledge base that you are creating, that will be fine. If you're trying to exclude that from other competitors, it's going to have to rely on the existing system that you have to make sure that they are not able to access that data, because if they do, they'll be able to pull it down. And that's kind of just in general based off of any data that's out there. Is that kind of
Yep.
a little bit? Okay. Anybody?
Could you, in theory, like someone has an online course,
Mhm.
and it's behind a paywall, but didn't develop a chatbot for behind that paywall that is all based on online course
Yes,
information. So
exactly.
now it's interactive with the professor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we've seen people do this with.
Say that again, because that's a good question.
Yeah. So how do you create and sit an AI chatbot behind a paywall so that it knows everything about a course or a business? Similar to the other example about like a marketing assistant, it's the same kind of structure. It's just you're training it to act in that different way in relation to the data that it has access to. So the data it has access to would not be pricing or that type of information. It's all more in that value kind of realm. So the way that you would kind of structure or train it is like, this is not the goal of, your goal is not to get someone to convert. They're already converted. You're just trying to help provide more information to those, additional resources, let's say.
All right, we got some questions from our online live stream viewers.
How will the AI chatbot hand off to a live person?
So there's a term.
Say the question.
Yeah. So how does a AI chatbot hand off to a live person? So there's a thing called handoff prompts, and so handoff prompts allow users or admins to set a set of criteria, and it could be a text-based criteria that says when a user submits their email or when a user says, "Screw you, I want to talk to a human," it then can transfer over to a live chat agent. There's a few different platforms out there that right now that can do this. Intercom, Talk2 can do this. I know Gorgeous is doing one. They are all coming at it from a point of view of customer agents first. So their goal is trying to set it up to where they're going to upsell you on user seats and their VA automation services. Where my company and Stammer comes into play for this is we're going to create the ability for businesses and agencies to offer that without us charging for it. And so we're going to essentially allow for live chat solutions to be done through an integration with Slack. And that's how we're going to be able to offer live chats to everybody.
I think we've all been on the phone with Verizon. Representative, you just keep saying it, and then they'll finally go, "Okay, I'm transferring you to a human." That's so. Chatbots are going to have the same functionality. There will be a code word to switch them over to humans.
Yeah.
So what's the average amount of tech stack are we looking at to invest in? Like from Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever it is, there's some sort of plug-in there. There's some sort of plug-in on the website, knowledge base, this and that. How many are we looking at?
Yeah. So what's the tech stack look like? ManyChat is the first one, manychat.com. And then your AI chatbot solution. And if you go with Stammer, that's an option. You could go with Chatbase is another good competitor of ours that's more tailored to businesses, where we are tailored as to agencies. They're the exact same platform, except they don't have our layer for agencies where you can rebill and sell it to your clients. So chatbase.co, that's another good one to check out. Those are the two things that you would need. So Chatbase or Stammer, those allow you to create your knowledge base. They allow you to scrape the website, upload the whole thing, and then also allow you to embed that chatbot on the website. So essentially, there's a two-pronged tech stack.
Because Stammer through Slack gives you the ability to do the handoff.
Correct, and that is not a current feature. That is a feature that's currently under development. It's on the roadmap, exactly.
All right, we got another question from online.
The knowledge base may have general info about your specific industry, but answers from the bot will be specific to your business because the knowledge base will also be geared specifically towards your business. Question mark. You want me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
The knowledge base may have general info about your specific industry, but answers from the bot will be specific to your business because the knowledge base will also be geared specifically towards your business. Question mark.
Let me try. I got it.
Okay.
All right. So the knowledge base has general information that it can pull from anywhere. ChatGPT already has this.
Correct.
If you go for the mortgage business, like James was talking about, if you go ask ChatGPT anything about generally speaking about mortgages, they can answer it already. So you don't need to add that to the knowledge base, correct?
Correct.
So the question is, how does it know the specific stuff? Which I think that's the gist of the question. How does it know the specific things about your business? And from my understanding, if I'm understanding the question, is that's what Stammer does. Stammer's team will come in and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We need to get the FAQs put together. These are the questions that need to be answered so that we can have a specific chatbot. Is everybody in the room hear the same thing I heard? Is that what they were asking?
Ultimately, then you're just typing it into the window and saying add this to the profile, clicking enter, and then it's part, right?
To the knowledge base, you mean?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So creating a knowledge base with the information about your business is on top of the general information. So it will obviously know all the information that ChatGPT knows. And then when you have specific information that's related to the business, when a user's query comes in, it's going to search against that information that you've added on your business. If there's nothing there, it won't know. So if there's nothing there and it's like, who's Jason Duncan? I don't know who that is. But if you then add to the knowledge base, Jason Duncan is an entrepreneur, blah, 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 it then will respond in that exact fashion.
Yeah. And so right now, for those of you that pay for ChatGPT Plus, the ChatGPT 4, which Bobby encouraged me to upgrade to it, so I did. You can add custom instructions now, which is essentially a small knowledge base, right?
And a small
very
extended
small.
prompt.
Yeah. So for example, in ChatGPT 4, you can go into the custom instructions and say, it'll ask you, I think there's 2 or 3 questions it asks. And it says, is there anything about you that we need to know? How do you want us to address you? What tone would you like to have? And then are there specific things that you believe that you would like us to tailor questions toward? And to use political stuff, because that's one I think we can all understand, is if you are a right winger versus a left winger, you can even tell ChatGPT, hey, I'm more to the right, so any political stuff I ask, I'm looking for those answers. I'm not suggesting that's what you should say, but you could say that. You could do that.
Yeah, and this is also where one of the other most popular terms comes up, called fine tuning. And fine tuning is is more in relation to what you just mentioned. It's how you are going to respond. It's not the information that you are responding upon.
Yeah.
So you could, it's like, I want you to talk like X, Y, or Z, not this is the information that you are using to respond like X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I know that's a.
Well, I didn't understand the custom instructions the first time I put it in there, because I thought it was just asking me stuff, not asking me so that it would know how to respond. And so I said, it needs to be somewhat humorous. And I thought, and then every response it was giving me was like, what's up, dog? And it was talking crazy stuff. And I'm like, I don't want it to talk to me like this. So I had to go back in and change it.
Yeah.
But you got one more question from online?
Do you have a home services business currently using it to sell services?
Let's see, home service, like
Electrical, pest
power
control,
washer,
power washing.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head for us, like directly, because we're more focused on the agencies. The question is, do you have any home services businesses for AI chatbots? The same similar funnel can be set up to do the same exact thing. They're looking for leads. They're looking for new customers. How do you get new customers? You provide value, ask them to opt in, and give them more information. So the same kind of process can be applied to whatever business that you have.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who owns a home services company, I would think that this would be something you could put on the site. So an electrical contracting company, somebody came on the site, they could ask a question, hey, my 110 outlet is not working in the kitchen. What could possibly be the problems? Well, the chatbot could say, well, here are some problems. That would that saves them the service fee of coming out. Now, that may not be what you want, but it is providing value.
Yeah.
And then it could say, would you care for one of our team members to come out and do this?
Mm-hmm.
Our service fee is $99. I think it's a great case for service businesses.
Yeah. We even had an auto body shop upload the instruction manuals on certain old classic cars, and so they could then ask like, oh, what's the cap? How do I fix the cap for this thing? It then references that information to then provide a quick response where that person doesn't have to flip through the manuals or whatever to find, whatever that's very, hyper specific piece of information is.
It's really, and for those of you that don't use ChatGPT as much, really what this knowledge base is ChatGPT is a knowledge base. It has all general information up to 2021, so when it stopped. So for example, I study and read a lot from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Well, the series of newsletters I'm writing for the month of September are going to be focused on that book. Well, I didn't have to tell ChatGPT who Napoleon Hill was or what Think and Grow Rich is, because it already knew. I yesterday, as a matter of fact, I said, what are the 13 core key principles taught in Think and Grow Rich? And I want 2-sentence explanation each one. And it gave me all 13, the title, and a 2-sentence explanation in modern language, the language that I wanted it to say. So what I'm saying is that a lot of this knowledge-based stuff that we're talking about is really already there. our knowledge base is going to be really small compared to what we think that we would have to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very specific. It'll be about pricing. It'll be about service terms, things like that. The knowledge base in ChatGPT is pretty amazing because that's what this is built on. And the other side of that is once you teach it the specifics, like exit without exiting, which is my thing, it knows. I can go to ChatGPT, start a brand new prompt and say, what does exit without exiting mean? Now, 3 months ago, it would go, I don't have any clue what you're talking about. But now it has this whole eloquently, beautifully designed and written description that I think it's better than what I would have wrote because it's taken all this information. And the coolest phrase it came up with only means something to me: strategic disentanglement. Like ChatGPT, ultimately decided that exit without exiting was strategic disentanglement from your business. And I thought, wow,
Put it on a shirt.
it's not as catchy as exit without exiting, but it is really cool. I thought it was really neat. You got another question from the live stream?
Do you get a list of the text entered to do fine tuning?
Yes. So fine tuning is only allowed in certain platforms, and it's actually different than creating a knowledge base. Fine tuning is only telling the chatbot how to act, and this is what we would relate the system prompt to. And so technically fine tuning is actually changing the actual model of ChatGPT to do certain things. We're not actually doing that. We're only telling it, hey, this is how you're going to reference specific information and how to respond using that information for context. Fine tuning is going way over on the deep end to not provide specific information. It's not specific. It's still general. And this is one of the things I also wanted to mention too that kind of goes off that question is the larger the database or the larger the knowledge base, typically the less quality responses we see. So we've had people try to scrape, all of Wikipedia or all pages on a certain thing of Wikipedia, and it will start to give drastically wrong responses or even just straight wrong information because it's referencing data that is either old or out of date or on a different page or something that's not actually representative of what the chatbot is meant to be done. So when I always reference this to people is you kind of only want to add the actual information that's good about your product, service, offer, FAQs, stuff like that.
Okay, add on to that. If someone is asking a question we don't have a knowledge base for, can we see that text to add it to the base?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so
Repeat that.
yeah, so if a question comes in from a user and that information is not in the knowledge base, how do you add that information to the knowledge base? Within our platform, within Stammer, you have the ability to query and message with the chatbot and click a button that says train better response. And so what will happen is if a question comes in and the AI doesn't give a good response or it's a bad response or no response, you can click a button and then you can manually type in what you'd like that response to be, click save, and then that gets added to the knowledge base, which can then be referenced whenever that question gets asked next.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the room or anybody online? We're going to start wrapping up now. Go get some of these final questions, and we got some announcements about our next EMS. I don't want anybody to tune out yet, so hang tight. Is there another one, Justin, from online? No. All right. Anything in the room? Live questions for anybody in the room? Yeah, we got one.
You mentioned earlier that in the legal field, ChatGPT will not give legal advice, but is there a general knowledge or general legal knowledge base, such as if someone asks, what is a copyright?
So question is, how do you create a general knowledge base so that way if someone asks what is a copyright?
As an example.
Yeah. So, well,
ChatGPT will already know that.
yeah, I mean, a copyright in the sense,
It's just a general term.
yeah,
so
just a general
it
term.
Provide a definition of what a copyright is.
Yeah.
I think your example about what do I do if I get pulled over is asking for advice. It's not really technically legal advice, but is asking for advice. So ChatGPT right now won't answer that question.
Yeah. And it's also, like I mentioned, it's very fluid. This is I don't have any idea how OpenAI is going to manage and build their platform in relation to that specific use case. We can only take the responses that we're getting and then use that knowledge to, go in the direction that we think is best. So as it stands today, that's the information that we've been provided. So that's how I
Yeah, but you can put, if you're in the legal field, you can create your own specific knowledge base to your heart's desire. Because if you wanted to put in your knowledge base, what do I do if I get pulled over? That could be in your specific knowledge base, and your chatbot could answer that for a person on your website, right?
It might not. And this is why I mentioned the legal specifically, is because we've had clients and people with these specific problems, and we're working with the information that we're getting back from OpenAI, and if they're telling us like you can't interface with that type of content or data, even if it's a custom knowledge base, there's not much we can do.
Yeah.
So,
because I know I follow some lawyers on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, and they have these advice videos like, what do I do when I get pulled over, or what do you do, in this situation? And they have these really clever videos where they go through how to do all this, and it's essentially giving legal advice, and without disclaimer. And I think, well, if they can do that on a short form video, surely a chatbot could be able to get away with it.
Yeah,
but who knows?
Yeah. What's the likelihood of them getting sued versus a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate?
Yeah. Well, so lady and gentlemen, thank you guys for being here live in the session today, and for all of you people that are on the live stream, thank you guys for dialing in on this.
Thank you.
This is a service of the Real Jason Duncan. This is something I do for value. Every single month we do this EMS webinars. So the next webinar I want to tell you about what's coming up, and this is coming up on October 4th. I've got a guy named Mario Lanzarotti. He's going to be doing the Freedom Blueprint, double your business with inner peace and an unstoppable mindset. This is going to be a webinar. It's not a live session, but this is going to be on October the 4th. All you have to do is register at therealjasonduncan.com/EMS, and you can get access to that. It's an hour and a half, and it'll be very similar to what Ross and I did today. It's just not live in a room with a live audience. We have one more live event scheduled for the end of the year, and that's going to be in November. It'll be right here with a coach on Ikigai. So if you're familiar with the concept of Ikigai, it's a Japanese concept about your purpose in life. So we're going to be finishing the year off with how to discover your true purpose with an Ikigai coach named Norm Tam. It's going to be really good to be right here, so you can come to that as well. If those of you who are in the room want to stay for, if anybody hasn't already signed up for the VIP lunch, we're going to do lunch, and we're going to walk away with your own automation set up for Instagram today. So if you are staying today, that's what you get today. And then if you're interested in signing up for the Super VIP tonight, you'll get 1 year of Stammer's full help setting up a chatbot on your site, and you get that knowledge base built just like what we talked about. So that's coming up. So if you're interested in any of that, stick around here in just a minute when we're finally done and we finish the recording, and we'll show you how to get signed up for that. The last thing I wanted to mention that's unrelated to EMS, but it is an offer that I have. It's a retreat that I'm hosting at the end of this month in the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee in my cabin called $1 Million View over in Sevierville. It's only open to 5 people. I only have 3 slots left. This is an intensive mastermind experience specifically for male entrepreneurs. So if you are an entrepreneur, you're a male, this is for you. Sorry, Melissa, but this is for you to come out there. And what it is 2.5 days of intensive masterminding together. The first day, everybody gets a 90-minute hot seat to go through their specific, whatever issue is, 90 full minutes where the whole room is collectively paying attention to what your issue is and getting you to resolution. Then on Tuesday, the second day of the retreat, you get a 45-minute session where we as a group are going to give you your 90-day action plan. And you have to agree to the action plan. We're not dictating it, but you have to agree to it. That you will actually walk away with a 90-day action plan written on how to accomplish whatever thing you were trying to accomplish that you brought up the day before. We have a chef that'll be on staff with us the whole time, cooking us amazing meals. We have some top shelf cigars and booze. We got a hot tub out back and one of the most amazing $1 Million views of the mountain you've ever seen on the back porch. So if you're interested in doing that, go to therealjasonduncan.com/intensive. There are only 3 slots left. It's $2,500. That includes everything. So I hope that you will consider being a part of that. it will definitely change the next year of your life. All right, Ross, big thanks to you for flying in from Vegas, coming all the way over here and hanging out with us in Nashville. We're glad that you're here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here live in this session. Thank you for all the folks on live stream for dialing in. I am the Real Jason Duncan, and we'll see you next time. Let us know when we're clear.